Lightroom, you can take all those images and meld them together, which gives hopefully more editing room when you're post-processing, putting things together. Kind of like HDR.
Well, top of the morning. This is Mr. Steve Ward with me. You saw him in our last video. Today we're at Bennett Springs. The idea is to get bald eagle shots, but Steve saw a landscape he's wanting to shoot, so he's setting up his camera now. It's unusual to be at Bennett Springs with nobody else here. There's no fishermen. We haven't seen people walking or anything. The fish are active though. We've seen lots of them jumping. But cloudless morning. I see 30 buzzards above us just flying around. Raymond Huddleston, a photographer here in Lebanon, he told me he was down this week and saw 5 eagles, 4 mature, 1 juvenile. So while Steve's setting up, I'm going to walk downstream and see if I see any eagles. So anyway, join us on this adventure. While Steve's back there setting up for his landscape, I'm walking downstream here looking for bald eagles. See a squirrel. I may end up walking all the way down to the bridge. I need the exercise. It's unusual. It's I think today is either the 6th of November or the 7th, but it's supposed to get in the 80s today. I bought I've had this strap for quite a while. Peak Design. It's got the little red tabs. Well, I've got one on the bottom of my lens, so I can put it over my shoulder. It works really good. So I spotted my first bald eagle. Is flying downstream. So I'm going to walk further on downstream, but I did finally see one. So I went down to the bridge. Never saw that eagle again. But that eagle flew downriver and I never did see it again. Go up here, see what Steve's up to, and maybe get in the truck and just drive down there and see if we can spot them.
All right, what I'm working on right now is we have a little, I'm not even sure what it's called. It's a little tower, little flood gauge. It's been there forever. But anyway, it's a highly photographed part of the park. And since there's nobody here to be standing in the way fishing, I'd like to get a picture of it for my uncle so he can paint it, believe it or not. And so here I am with my camera, and I just shot a bracketed setting, so I'll try to do some HDR work to it. I have 5 brackets set, and just took some of those. Not sure how those turned out. Still concerned about my exposure to the right, and so that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, is fiddling with that. But I think the composition's pretty good, although I guess maybe all photographers this way is like, man, if I had my other lens on, it would look different. And so I do consider switching lenses every once in a while to see what would happen. So might end up doing that too. I'm just shooting a bracket real quick. What's a bracket? Well, for me, I try to set one exposure that I think is going to be the perfect exposure, which it never is. And then I hit on the side of my camera is a BKT for bracket, and I can tell my camera to take either 2 more pictures, one above, one below what I think was perfect, or I guess maybe 5 things altogether. And so then in Lightroom, you can take all those images and meld them together, which gives hopefully more editing room when you're post-processing, putting things together. Kind of like HDR back in the old days. Although I did learn this lesson the hard way last week. My first frame has to be a picture of my hand in front of my lens. That way I know I'm getting ready to have 3 or 5 photos in a row that need to be blended together. All right, things that I learned. Number 1, patience is a virtue. I was ready to go a while back and say, I got the great picture and let's leave. But as it turns out, my bracketing was wrong because I was shooting in manual mode. And even though the shutter speed changed, it didn't change really enough for anything to make a difference. So all the pictures look basically the same. So switched everything to aperture priority. I think we even took the ISO down to just, we took that to,
We took it out of auto.
yeah, took it out of auto. Otherwise the camera would compensate for everything every time. So took it out of auto, set my brackets onto 3. There's no compensation going on. Focused, fired, and then we have some pretty, I guess they're extreme. A dark one, a light one, and then one in the middle that should have been the proper exposure to begin with. And hopefully all those will blend together. So that explains why my photos last week didn't look all that different when I was shooting at Johnson shut-ins, because I was shooting manual with bracketing, which means nothing really was changing whatsoever. Oh, I still have my bracketing on. Okay. All right. My uncle would like a picture of the stone bridge so that he could turn it into a watercolor painting. And so we're set up here on the bank. And I'm trying to take it at an angle. I mean, we took one that was straight on through the first arch here of basically the waterfall in the background. That's really pretty, a nice, easily framed shot. But I kind of like things at an angle so they almost have those disappearing lines as you're going forward. Just trying to make things that are 2-dimensional look 3. But I'm not entirely satisfied with this composition because we've got this really bright light over here to the left that I think is going to capture everyone's attention. So I might have to, but I really can't go, there's nothing but thorns over there to the left, so I'm not that excited as a photographer. So I might take a couple of steps back, which may be counterintuitive, but I might try to get more of the bright light. And then we'll post-process with Lightroom. Hardest part of the day is setting up the tripod. Post-process in Lightroom. Try to balance things out so maybe that doesn't capture as much attention over there to the left. So I'm using kind of the same settings we just did earlier because that worked out really well with the dark arches. And I focused a third of the way in, hit the trigger, and it's taking and writing a little bit in the sky, so I'm going to try to adjust things here, but I'm always wrong. And so I'll go up here to the compensation, and I would say I need to make things a little bit darker, so I'm going to go down just a full step to see what happens. Focus again. Shoot again. And even though it looks a little bit too bright on the histogram, I didn't get my zebra stripes. Oh, there we go, got it. Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take one photo that I think is exposed perfectly, like this is great, but I learned how in the old days where you metered for the shadows, so I'm still trying to work all that through my mind. But what this does is it takes, the camera automatically takes one photo that I think is the right setting, then one that's 2 steps below, and then 2 steps above, and then in Lightroom we'll be able to blend those together like you do in HDR photography, and that will give us this great dynamic range that we can bring out shadows, tone down a little bit of the light that's too bright, and just by magic, as we were standing here, the bridge just started to light up because it must be reflecting off of something because the sun's way over there, the light is showing up over here, so that's pretty cool. But anyway,